We'll start with the meditation. Oh, right, sorry. You do first. Jim?
Sashi Koki Joshin Meto Chan Riyam Nishin and Bali Sanye Shindu Nite Wadi Drokun Manda Shima Jupasho Yam Duratnamada Sayami Sangye Chudam Soki Choknama Chanchu Bardu Dakmi Kyasuchi Daki Chinyen Kipe Sunamki Dora Nishir Sangye Drupasho Sangye Chudam Soki Choknama Chanchu Bardu Dakmi Kyasuchi Daki Chinyen Kipe Sunamki Drova Nishir Sangye Drupasho Sangye Chudam Soki Choknama Chanchu Bardu Dakmi Kyasuchi Daki Chinyen Kipe Sunamki Droga Kanchir Sangye Drupasho.
Can somebody read it in English? Can somebody read that prayer in English, please? John, you have, it's not in the Bible, I think. We just handed it out, so somebody who just, Jen?
The refuge and the wish were the
offering the mandala and then the wish.
Okay.
Not the refuge.
The first one, offering the mandala. Here is the great earth filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the 4 continents, wearing a jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of the Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Refuge in the wish. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being.
So take your time to shift around if you need to and just get comfortable in your seat. So you should have a nice, relaxed posture, but the spine is alert, like an antenna. You feel a slight pull at the very crown of your head towards the sky. And then the jaw and the shoulders and the throat are very soft. Eyes are soft. And the tongue is lightly up against the back of the 2 front teeth. This connects the front line of energy and the back line of energy, keeps you in balance. And then just softly breathing without force. Picture in front of you your idea of an enlightened Lama. then place both of you in your ideal place to meditate. Your paradise. The Lama is in front of you. They're radiating love and wisdom. Totally in love with you. And consider how much he or she knows. How perfectly they understand that everything is an image. Perfectly they can manipulate those images to end suffering. Think about now your own mind. How little you understand right now that everything is a mental image. It's all coming from you. You can check how many times today did you remember it. And so you're in danger. Constantly mistaking appearances as really being there. Constantly hurting yourself. Chasing after things that aren't really there. You're hurting others by misunderstanding. So focus on the Lama in front of you and ask them, beg them in your mind to help you. Please teach me. Please let me see like you. They are the root of the path. They are so pleased that you asked. They have been waiting for you to ask. So long. You have gone for refuge truly. You can open your eyes when you're ready. So every meditation that we do in this class and everything that we talk about and all the readings, they all have to do in this course with eradicating doubt, right? And you know that when you sit in meditation, your mind is often wandering. And every time the mind wanders is because there's doubt. And it's not only that there's doubt, there's not passion. It's like every time the mind wanders, the mind is saying that the thing that it's wandering to is more important than the object in meditation. That the noise outside is more important in that moment than the object you're focusing on. Or the problem that I'm having at work that I can't stop thinking about, is more important than this object in meditation. Who's Jamie?
He's coughing.
Coughing. Okay. So every time you catch your mind doing that, bring it back and get some sort of conviction about what you're doing, some sort of certainty. Because if your mind is too worried about your problem at work to sit and focus on the object of your meditation, use a little bit of logic and consider that perhaps 10 years from now you won't even remember that problem that you're having at work. It won't matter at all, I promise. It's so nice to hear Lama Marut give talks because he doesn't hold back at all. You know, how he doesn't beat around the bush at all in what he says. And one of the things he talks about, whenever he refers to a job, he always calls it your dead-end job. He always says that. You know, and the reason is because every single job that you have ends in death. There is no job that's important. There is no job that you haven't done millions of times already. There is nothing more important than sitting on the cushion and trying to hammer out how you think things exist so that you can have the antidote to every kind of suffering there is. So if your intention is clear, and that's what this class is all about, this whole course, it's like really just getting your intention clear, then there's no doubt. And Lama Christie says, the mind is the mind is a big place. The way to root out the doubt that's hiding in there is through meditation. And I don't think that you can do it any other way. And the thing is that, you know, off the cushion, if you didn't have doubt, you would never do a negative deed at all. So doubt is the thing that's hurting us, right? Because when you hurt another person, who are you hurting? You're hurting yourself, right? We all know that by now. So it's funny because every time you study a spiritual tradition, it always begins with what?
Morality.
Yeah, morality. And there's a reason why, right? You know, even like most people wouldn't consider yoga a spiritual tradition, but it is. It's a path out of suffering. And even yoga begins with how you treat others. A teacher, classically, a yoga teacher would never take on a student before they had already been practicing the yamas and the niyamas and perfecting how they treated others. Because you could never teach someone asana if they weren't already living to benefit other people, because you would hurt yourself. Asana is very dangerous. You wouldn't have the karma to have it work. And every single spiritual tradition is a path out of suffering. And it doesn't work. None of them work if you're hurting other people. So this class, the title of this class is Upward Spiral, and it's has to do with the link between morality and getting your mind to be able to focus on emptiness. So there's this quote by Lord Buddha, which is really beautiful. So let's say it together. It's really good seeds. By maintaining pure behavior, you reach a state of concentration. Having reached that concentration, you can practice understanding. Using understanding, you attain the purest wisdom. And with that purest wisdom, your pure behavior becomes perfect. So that's the end result. Your pure behavior becomes perfect. That Lord Buddha leaves us with. He says, you know, there's this link between morality and quieting down the mind. If you act kind towards others, your mind can get still. And when your mind can get still, then you can turn your mind towards emptiness. You can actually understand the teachings of emptiness. And then when you can turn your mind towards emptiness and you do the analysis, you gain an understanding. And this is what they call Sherab. S-H-E-R-A-B, Sherab in Tibetan, understanding. And then once you have this understanding, then the last thing that you would do is hurt another being. Right? When you gain this understanding, then you're able to hold any kind of realization you have of emptiness, and then that's wisdom, right? And once you have wisdom, true wisdom that way, then there's no chance you would ever hurt another being. Your pure behavior becomes perfect.
So, I think early on with some dedication, then it's pretty obvious the benefits of meditating. And also, one of the first things that you learn, like Nancy was talking about, is that if you disturb your mind, if your mind is disturbed, if you get angry, if you allow mental afflictions to continue during the day, if you put yourself in situations where you might not be able to manage, your level of emotional reaction, that your meditation is going to suffer. And at first, then meditation is very difficult because the mind is moving too much and the ease of practice isn't there, right? So in order to reach the levels, the high levels, the deep levels of meditation, then we have to act with love in our day. We have to consider others' needs as our own needs, right? And then you might think, oh, well, Nancy said that in the beginning of the practice that's really important, but probably by the end of the practice it's not so important. But there's countless stories. One that I remember is Atisha Dipankara in India was the greatest, highest throne holder saint in all of India. And he sat there in meditation. He asked himself, how do you get enlightened? And he was probably the highest scholar in all of India. And miraculous, like when he was 18 months old, he talked about bodhicitta. Just, and everyone was surprised. And then his life continues like that. And a great teacher heard him from close by, in meditation, and then appeared to him and said, you don't get enlightened by thinking about some deity, by visualizing some deity. You get enlightened by practicing bodhicitta, by developing bodhicitta, by expressing bodhicitta. And then this amazing throne holder, he left India because he heard that there might be a master who could help him to develop his bodhicitta further and help him to learn about it further and help him to realize it directly. And he left and he spent 13 months on a crazy voyage across the ocean, and an evil practitioner made a huge storm and the ocean was going, and he had to do Yamantika practice to stop the storm, and finally he arrived there. That's how important it is. All the way at the end of the practice, all the way at the end, right before when you're touching enlightenment, that's going to be the thing that brings you over. That's the bridge that you have to cross, in the beginning and the end. So loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta are your ticket to stillness, period. You use the perfections to gain wisdom. You use the wisdom to perfect how you're acting ethically in your world and expressing love. Due to that deeper kind of ethical conduct, then you can reach stillness. And with stillness, you can infinitely grow your wisdom. Infinitely, okay? So, using the perfections, using your behavior to gain wisdom, then you really see that others are not separate from you. You know, can we turn on the fan maybe? Can we turn on the fan? Jimmy? And then when you see that others are not separate from you, that it's literally impossible, and you have realizations of that deeply in a state of stillness, then you will have complete faith in the path. You will have complete faith in the practices. So that means that things like stress, things like worry, you know, these kind of obsessions that we have, you know, kind of like paranoia or something like that, they're 100% obsolete. They're totally foolish. You know, and if you look at like the different kinds of mental afflictions, even at the very beginning level, something like jealousy would be totally obsolete. You know, I want this person's big house. I want this person's car, or oh, that guy's got nice sneakers, I want sneakers, or whatever it is, or you know, like that. But what is it? Is it one of the three kinds of suffering? Is it the suffering of change? You know, is it the suffering of suffering? Is it, you know, all pervasive suffering? Which one? Just choose. Check it out. And then what are you saying? You're spending your time wanting suffering. You're spending your time wanting suffering. So even on the Hinayana path, then it's totally obsolete. And someone like Master Shantideva used great examples even before the application of this kind of intense analytical wisdom, still that disprove the purposefulness of anger. You know, like, for example, you know, oh, someone hit you with a stick. Is it, so are you angry at the guy, or are you angry at the stick? So of course I'm not angry at the stick, because the guy's controlling the stick. So well, then what's controlling the guy? So only a mental affliction is going to cause someone to try to cause harm to another person. So the guy is not controlling the stick, the mental affliction is causing the guy to hit with the stick. So the mental affliction. So at first you hated the guy, and naturally you didn't hate the stick. But then you hated the mental affliction. You say, I hate anger. Say, where can you root out anger? How can you root out anger? You can only root it out in your own mind. You see, so even on a very practical level, then it's obvious that you use ethics, right? And then by using ethics and being a dedicated meditator, then you start to have experiences in your meditations. Then you start to experience deeper and deeper truths. And I mean, how do you find out it's deeper? Maybe that's not so easy, but part of it is like this course or this part of Kamalasila's book, Master Kamalashila, where he's showing this is the roadmap. This is the roadmap, you know? And then when you have those realizations, you can kind of see. It's like if you're traveling and you never saw the ocean before, and you say, oh, it's called the ocean. Just keep going that way, you're going to find it. But then you're never going to find it. You go to the house, is this the ocean? No, it's not the ocean. You go to the store, is this the ocean? No, it's not the ocean. It's going to be infinitely longer, right? But if they describe everything, it's this vast body of water, you know, whatever. You see all the way to the horizon. It's deep as deep can be. It's wide as wide can be. It's, you know, like that. Then as soon as you see it, you don't have to really check. You automatically know you're there, right? So in this part of the book, that's kind of what Master Kamalashila is doing. He's showing you, right? So that's on one level of knowing that you've reached a deeper realization. But the real proof is when you are in your daily life dealing with the problems that you've been dealing with, and you have increased your capacity to act on behalf of others. to put yourself, the things you think you need aside and just provide it for somebody else. That's the real proof. That's the real proof. And that's how you know any kind of teaching you go or lecture or whatever like that, that's how you know if it's a good teaching. They can talk about all the theory, emptiness, this, it's no ears, it's no eyes, it's blah, 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 this, blah, that. But if it doesn't end with that means you need to go out and help somebody now, and that's what you should dedicate your life to, then it's just not a good emptiness teaching. Because that's the purpose. You know? So, why am I saying this? Really, I'm kind of going around, because what I really want to talk about is the meditations for this class. Okay? We're talking all this intellectual stuff, there's lists, there's reading, but the real point of the class is that you're meditating. That's the real purpose, because the realizations have to come from your practice. You see? So everything we're doing is completely 100% pointless if you're not doing the meditations. Okay? So that's why we kind of felt there was some like ambiguity, some emails got back and forth before this class. We need you to do the meditations so that this is not harmful to you. And the reason why it would be harmful is because intellectual things, for the sake of being intellectual, is just another cause of suffering. It's actually just another type of suffering. You know? So that's not, we're not interested in being up here and talking about these things if it's not to give you something for you to take and practice. Okay, so then we're gonna kind of be like hard asses, and then if you don't bring your meditation journal, then we won't make any exception anymore. Because in our past courses, then we said, our teachers told us, if you take this class and you don't meditate, it's gonna be worse than you ever thought, because you just won't be interested anymore. And in some cases you say, this person, they'll always be interested. Oh, this passion they have? Oh, they're, no problem. Of course, they missed 2 journals, they missed 3 journals, who cares? They're good to go. And it happens. We really tried to do the journals, so that we didn't know until we saw our own students go all the way from the highest possible level, all the way down. And it's not like, oh, I hate Buddhism or something like that. It's just total clean slate, like it never even happened. Just the interest is there. Everything's completely gone. That's the karma of not doing the practice. Okay? So we have all of these kind of emotional conditions during the day. And, can you control the moment? No. Right? If you could control the moment, then you would never choose to suffer. Okay? That's very good proof. Right? So a lot of emotions come, even if it's not our choice. Anger can come, it's not our choice. Jealousy can come, it's not our choice. But we don't follow these things like they're a beacon of hope. You know what I mean? Because they're just going to lead you down. And that's where the light of wisdom comes in. That's where your practice comes in. Because then you gain this special insight, and no matter how tricky the circumstance is, then you can really kind of turn that on and check, and to check, is it useful, is it really true, what am I basing this on, like that, right? So we want to follow this light of wisdom, and one thing it points to is nothing out there can hurt. Nothing out there can hurt. Period. Nothing out there is fixed. Everything is changing instant to instant depending on how you've treated others in the past. As I say, they say bodhicitta is the ultimate armor, all the way up to the highest teaching. Bodhicitta is the ultimate armor. If you have an obstacle and you feel like you're in danger, right? And it's possible, right? We can all be in danger. There's people that want to hurt us. There's buses that want to hit us. There's spirits that want our food to taste bad, that give bad weather or whatever. Then literally, bodhicitta is the ultimate armor. You know, and you bring that compassion. You bring that compassion imbued with wisdom, right? And then you're completely protected. And you imbue it with wisdom, and it says, there is nothing out there, right? There is nothing that doesn't depend on its parts, that doesn't depend on the thought and the will, right? And so I have to help it. So these things out there, many obstacles, many harmful things, lots of good people too, and grandmas and all that stuff, right? But they're all me. They're all me, right? And you, right? The general me, you know? And see, how do you have to treat your mind? You see? Your mind is like, if you have the possibility to reach stillness in this lifetime, and every single one of us do, okay? Your mind is like delicate. You know, it's like, we have a 16-month-old, but it's like younger. It's like 3 weeks. It's like an infant. You know? Every single thing you do, every single condition, every single little action you do is going to determine the future of this little infant. You know, so every single day you want to be tender towards your mind. What mind? The mind that's expressing itself as how you see you and how you see others, right? So that's not coming from its own side. That's a projection of my karma. That thing is made of mind. That's made of mind. You see? And you have to be kind to it. You have to treat it with love. And then when you go and sit on your cushion, then something amazing will happen. You know, and then in the higher teachings, one of the main things about bliss. They talk always about bliss. But you don't even ever have to talk about it, because the only thing there is to talk about is helping other people, because that's the cause of bliss. And we're going to talk about bliss in this class. You know, because there's a bliss of fluidity. There's reaching stillness is a blissful occasion. Okay? And the cause of that is just pure compassionate behavior. Okay? The other side is the self-grasping mind. Right? What about me? What do I want? What are my needs? And the self-grasping mind is just a sinking ship. It's just going down, you know? And when you're thinking of yourself, all you're doing is allowing more ignorance to pour in. And the end result is just increased amount of suffering. More suffering, okay? So Lord Buddha, I don't know if you remember this quote, but Shakyamuni said, if you don't think of your students, you will suffer. I mean, if you don't think of your students as empty, you will suffer. Do you remember that from the last course? And then he gave the other side, if you don't see your teacher as empty, you suffer. But let's just talk about the students, right?
If you don't see your students
As empty, you will suffer. And the main point about that is, if you don't think that they are you, then you can't help. Okay? And then, if you remember the diamond cutter, then Shakyamuni says, once you've helped he talks about this, I'm not giving you direct quote, once you've helped all these beings to reach ultimate happiness, a real bodhisattva sees that he never helped anyone at all. And that's about maintaining that wisdom, right? Maintaining that wisdom. so that it's increasing your merit. You see? So it's increasing your merit. No matter what, until we reach a certain level, all of the beautiful things we do for other people, under it, and I was talking with a friend from this class, like yesterday, all of it under, there's some self-service. Like making me feel good about myself, or make them like me more, or something. Really deep, like subconscious level, you know? If you imbue your compassionate activities with wisdom, you're counteracting that. You're counteracting that habitual way of looking at things, you know? By counteracting that, you're ensuring that this seed you're planting in your mind stream is going to lead to Buddhahood. Big difference than a flower that, it looks nice now, but by tomorrow morning it's just going to be like dead, you know? Or just complete, absolute, ultimate happiness for every living being. Right?
So that quote that we said together by Lord Buddha, that's from a Bodhisattva text. So we should talk about what does it mean to be a Bodhisattva? Because that word is really overused in Dharma circles. It's like, people use it to refer to anybody who does some nice things. And so to be clear about what a Bodhisattva is, a Bodhisattva is somebody who, it's like everything that they do in every moment of their time, and every interaction, every breath is really precious, and it's all dedicated to one goal, which is to bring each person to their highest goal, their ultimate goal. And it's like they're obsessed with this. A Bodhisattva thinks about it day and night. And it's really a freeing way to be. It's like finally you can stop worrying about yourself. It's a relief, And it's like a Bodhisattva knows that they will get to the goal by helping others get there. So they don't have to worry about themselves getting there, because they'll get there by helping you get there. We'll all go together like a big party. We all know that worrying about what it's like to worry about ourselves, it's exhausting. Right? Like a person who is depressed is like a caricature of what it means to worry about yourself, right? And I'm not judging, I'm speaking from my own experience, that when you're depressed, all you can do is think about how bad you feel. And it's like a paralysis. You can't even go to the store. It takes like a mountain of energy just to get up out of bed, And that is it's like a character showing you your own mind that can't turn towards others, And it's crazy because the best way to get out of depression is to just think of others, but it feels like the last thing you could do. So you can go in your mind and you can think about those times when you've had even a glimmer of that. Maybe you haven't had full-on depression, but days that you feel sad. You can't stop thinking about yourself, and it feels so exhausting. And then you can think about the times when you're happiest, right? And it's usually when you lose a sense of self. It's when you maybe it's like you're in love with another being, and you kind of lose this sense of I. Or for me now, having Francis, our son, I'm happy all the time. Like from the moment I wake up, I'm happy until I go to sleep. And I've never had that like full on before, And it's because I've been released from this worrying about myself. It's like my lamas came and emanated as this little baby to help me forget about worrying about myself. It's the greatest gift that I've ever had. But it's like I'm having fun all the time, And bodhisattvas are like that. They have fun all the time because it's fun to think about other people, So a bodhisattva is someone who, when they do something nice for someone else, they don't worry about getting credit for it. It's like, have you ever, this happens all the time in New York, where you open the door for someone and they just walk right through and they don't say thank you? That's your Lama emanating, is that person teaching you about your motivation. A bodhisattva wouldn't get upset about that because they don't see a separation between themselves and the person that they open the door for. A bodhisattva is somebody who, when they do a virtuous deed, they don't have to tell anybody about it. It's enough. It gave them enough joy already. They don't have to share it. There was a guy in California who was going around and putting money in people's parking meters, and just like anonymously, and I think that's a perfect example. They actually made it illegal to do that. That's crazy. Yeah, this happens. A bodhisattva is somebody who is really conscious about every relationship that they have. Like I saw this with my lamas, that their schedule was always full. They were always going to see other people, and they knew a lot of people, and they kept in touch with a lot of people, and their schedule was packed. But it was never where they would just go and hang out with people and do nothing. It was always that they were teaching. Even if they went to a party or something, every conversation was to bring that person to their highest level. It was whatever that person needed in the moment, and they just they pierced into that person's mind, and they could see what that person needed to hear, and they would say it. Every word out of their mouth was for them. And if they weren't teaching another person, they were with their own teachers. So it's like that when you think about what Ori said with morality, that when you're practicing morality, you're close to wisdom. And a bodhisattva is somebody who always wants to be close to wisdom. When you're hurting another person, it's like wisdom is here and you're over here. It's just, you're perpetuating ignorance.
But it's a good example. When you're doing a bodhisattva act and you gain conviction in meditation, no one can ever take it away from you. You see, you can try to help somebody and you totally ruin their life. You can try to help somebody and they're just totally indifferent, but it did help. You can help somebody and it helped them and they're happy and they're grateful. All three the same. It really depends on the karma. But the intention, the action, the seed that was planted, that's there. 100% confidence. You see? The kindest thing you can do for other people is clean up your own mind. Right? And with confidence, you know that action is going to produce a beautiful result. One that's going to bring you closer to your enlightenment. Then you will have no doubts after you do it. Because people can react in all different ways. Circumstances go way down. There's always so many different karmas that come, right? But if you have conviction, then you won't stop. Oh, I helped, but they weren't thankful. So maybe I won't help so much on the next person. And then you see people get worn down, right? You see people who really started out oh, I want to help people. And then after a few years, oh, they just take and take and take. And then by the end, it's like, I don't want to help anybody. Nobody cares. But that's a good sign if nobody cares. You know what I mean? Because then that's the test. Do you have conviction or not? Are you meditating on this or not? That's the real question. You know? That's what Geshe-la said. If you're doing an action without wisdom, even if it's a beautiful thing to help somebody, it's going to cause suffering. So you must act with wisdom, right? They are all empty, and so are you. 100% equally a projection, completely equal. You see, there's no blame and there's no status. Absolutely no status. You see that? So because everyone is a mental image coming from you, then you have to work even harder to help them, right? Because what's more important than your own happiness? You know, it's holiness, the Dalai Lama calls it enlightened self-interest. If the self-interest is going to be there no matter what, right? And we checked, in Bok Jinpa 1, we checked. In every single moment, are you going towards the more pleasurable thing or the more painful thing? Are you going for the more painful thing or the least painful thing? You're always leaning towards your own benefit, no matter what. It's just the natural way it's going to be. So might as well put some wisdom on it, right? And then you can, like Nancy said, completely give up about worrying about yourself because it's all you, right? There's like 0.1 of me here, and then 99.99999 billion nines percent of me out there. You know? But here's a funny catch, right? You can't reach the goal just you and your close friends and your family. You see, because even if you go up there and you go up, how great is it going to be all the way at the highest peak of existence, and you look down and there's just countless beings all experiencing suffering? That's not happiness, right? So that's why dedicating your actions to every single sentient being, and it's a process to learn how to do that, right? It's like an art that we all want to master. But dedicating that's the cause. That's the common cause for a real Buddha field, where every single being that exists is experiencing ultimate happiness. And that comes from seeing that they're all equal, that they're equally empty, and every single one of them equally needs your help. So creating this virtue is really special, right? And it's very, very delicate because it's not self-existent. What you do for the future is going to determine how this virtue ripens, all right? In our tradition, we say that anger can destroy virtue. And I think that's a clue. You know, you can do something, you can do an incredible act imbued with wisdom. But if you begin to pile on ignorance, to pile on self-service onto that, you can eventually turn it into dirty karma. You can eventually turn it into the cause of suffering. Okay? And I don't really know about a good example like that, but something like doing an amazing thing for somebody else, and then going and talking about it so much, bragging. By the time all these other karmas, dirty karmas associated with that act, the heap is so large, and this little tiny pea is so small of the virtue, what's going to happen? It's just going to be a blip on the radar screen, you know? So we want to gain conviction in meditation, act out, create incredible virtue, and then carry it with us and protect it every single day. Every single day. And then the next time that there's a spark where that first moment where you see, I can get angry from this. This person is saying this to me, and I can get angry from this. Then cut it off, knowing that letting that anger blossom in that moment could be putting all of your virtue in jeopardy. Okay?
Maybe we should answer those questions from the maybe session before.
Oh, this question.
Let me just change it. So, there was a review session today on Bok Jinpa II material, and then they had some questions, so we wanted to just answer those before you guys get tired of hearing us talk.
The one that
Might have happened already.
I don't know.
We also talked about the meditation from this past week, so I think the question pertains.
Yeah, it was one of them.
Oh, okay.
So when you're looking at a situation and you're going through the different, does it have a beginning, middle, and end? Could somebody else see it differently? All those things. So the beginning, middle, and end of the parts one, as it applies to like a situation, it gets kind of murky. Because like, well, does what specifically have a beginning, middle, and end? Like the anger or the emotion or the causes leading up to the situation, or
You can use any one of those things.
it almost seems like too easy. Yeah, it does. Okay, moving right on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, if it doesn't click with you, use another one. Use another proof. But the reason that it's easy and you're going quick, you're going, yeah, I understand, is because your mind isn't still yet. It's not slowed down enough yet. You have to dig a little deeper. Like that's an easy thing to do when you're intellectually you get it. You get these teachings and you're doing the meditation. You're like, yeah. It's not one. It's not many. Moving on. But it's actually like a really profound question that one is in there. And if you spend a little more time and look at what you think is there, that's the key. Just have a debate in your mind and look at what you think is there, and then debate that. Like peel it apart. Like there's layers there that you're not getting to. I don't know if that helps. Teddy has something to say about that.
I'm not good at analysis, but one good thing with analysis that has helped is if you ask yourself, does my heart act on the basis of the understanding that I'm trying to get at? Because your mind is trying to analyze, like if you're doing a meditation on death or emptiness, and you're like, is it true that I'm going to die? You go, yeah. But then you ask yourself, does my heart believe that I'm going to die? Are my actions informed on the understanding of this answer? And your mind will say no. And then the opportunity to go deeper is there. Like if you ask your heart, like does my heart really believe that there's a beginning, middle, and end? Right? And the investigation can, I think, become maybe a little bit deeper.
Is that good? If you could be maybe a little more specific, and if you need some advice about the analysis, then it's possible.
I guess what would be the alternative, like in that situation? It's so easy to say, like, yeah, of course, in the beginning.
Of
so
what? What has
right. That's my question.
Oh.
Of what? So let's say you're calling to mind a situation where you got angry. And you're like, even in that moment, you say, like, I know I'm messing up my virtue. I know this is not really.
So this person came, they did something that made you angry.
Yeah.
Right? So they came, they made you angry. right? But when did they start? Was their first moment? When did they come? When did they come and them doing it touch you? Did they do it and then the anger started?
Well, it always seems that.
So when did the anger start? Was there a beginning, middle, and end to that moment?
Well, the anger probably started when I was like 6 years old. So they
But right then, you know, I mean, so then they weren't. So then they didn't cause your anger. So then
But-
that's easy.
Right.
But you can really look, you know, like it looks like this person came and they did something. And I saw them do something. And then I got angry because of it. So that's pretty cut and dry. Now you can start to look. You know, okay, so they came, they did something. I saw them doing something. And then I got angry because of it. So did the anger start with you seeing them do it? Did the anger start with them doing it? Or did the anger start later? Is there a space between those moments? But if there was space between those moments, and then you take the space, can I divide that space? Does that space have a beginning, a middle, and an end? So let me take the middle of that space, in between when I saw them and when I got angry, right? Can I divide that? And then you find that there's infinite space in between seeing them and getting angry. So the first belief that you're confronting is that they were the cause of your anger. And right there you defeated it. Because there's infinite space in between seeing them and the start of this anger. So then they don't touch. They absolutely don't touch. Right? And then you can go further like that.
You can break it down you don't believe that seeing them made you angry. You believe that the words they said made you angry. They said some words, your mind registered it, then you had this emotion of anger. And that's like, science would say that too, right? It triggered something in your memory, or maybe and then your nervous system reacts, and then you get this feeling of anger. And you can break that down too, You believe that you hear these sounds and decibels, and they enter your ear, and then, these signals are sent to your central nervous system, and then your brain says, they said these horrible things, get angry, and then you get angry. The moment that your brain says to get angry, and the moment that the sounds and decibels left their mouth, those moments of time never touch. How can one affect the other? And you have to be in a still place of mind, or as still as possible, to really look at that and be like, yeah, and cook that in your mind, you have to dig at each piece of the story, There's so much of that story there that you're believing in is out there, it's fixed, And you have to investigate the whole story, every piece, That's why an analytical meditation can last a long time. It's not just the proof itself. It's like there's a whole story that you elaborate on and you believe in.
Obviously being well versed on all the proofs, then you have more tools. Because there's so much in that little piece of information you gave, then if you study the Bok Jinpa II material, it's like endless. Like even the words themselves, and like the first syllable and second syllable, and like the first half of the first syllable, and like if you actually put together multiple syllables, but you had to hear the first half of every first half, it would literally take infinity to hear one word. I mean, there's like unbelievable amount of amazing proofs that you have to study, that we all have to study, like continually, so that because maybe those 3 examples we gave on this sheet or that we said in class weren't the right ones for you necessarily at that time, There's like 10,000 proofs of emptiness, and they're all 100% correct, like infallible.
And maybe they don't bring you to a moment of going like, oh my God, it's all an illusion based on how I've treated others in the past. But maybe you have some moment, like physical feeling, where you say like, that doesn't exist the way I thought it did. And that's enough, that's enough to kind of start breaking the ice a little bit. That's all that's really important at this point. So another question?
I think your question is similar.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to ask?
Well, no, simply just to say it's a question that how strange to put in a structure in analysis. Is there any way to help? Well, I'm a beginner at this, so should I follow in the structure or just?
Maybe you can go, since we have so many days with one meditation, maybe you can, choose for each morning that you sit or whatever time you sit, you'll focus on one proof. So you can go, did you listen to the Bok Jinpa II classes 1 to 4?
Just one.
Just one? So you should probably listen to 2, 3, and 4 because those proofs are, you should have those handy. And then there's, like Ori said, there's way more proofs than that, but those are great to start with. And then take one, and each one is meant to, you spend a whole month in retreat on one. And each one can take you all the way. So maybe focus on one until you feel like you got some sort of realization on it, and then you can move on to it.
And, in terms of structure, all of the structure that we need to go from the beginning all the way up until directly realizing emptiness in deep meditation is in the book, actually. And Master Kamashiwa lays it out. It's so perfect, and the very, 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 very first square one. I mean, obviously before square one, you have to set your intention, but it's to recognize it, what it is. Okay, so that's why he starts. It's a working thing, it's a functioning thing, it's a changing thing, it's a cause thing, right? So those are pretty dry, but even very beginning. If it's let's say I'm told this person who just won't leave me alone, every time they see me, they always have some kind of insult or whatever. Boom, that's the first thing. That's step one. They say, oh, not really, they're not really that way. You have to recognize really what they are, how they're existing first. And
For
then
you in that moment.
For you. And that is how they exist. Because there was never anyone else but that. And then slowly you're going. It's like a building. You just build the first floor. Okay, it's a functioning thing, it's a cause thing, it's a working thing, it's a changing thing. Changing instant to instant. Okay, he has no unchanging qualities. First, right? He's a cause thing, he comes from causes. Oh, he comes from causes. And then keep going like that. And then a few steps later, then you're saying, he's not separate from my mind. It's not random that I'm seeing this. Some people see it this way, some people see it that way, some animals see it this way, some spirits see it that way. So it's not random that I see it the way I see it. So me and this thing are both coming from the same cause, right? There's a seed and it's coming up, and then go, and it's you, and it's how you see yourself, and it's how you see the thing. And then it's all mind. And then you continue the analysis. And it's beautifully laid out by Master Kamashiwa. And in meditation, it's just amazing because the more single-pointed you are, the more you can maintain the structure and then go higher and higher and see deeper and really reach beautiful realization like that. So it's all there for you.
And it's cool how the flow of Master Kamashiwa's book should be the flow of our meditation, like this is what you just said, but the way that Bok Jinpa I is about compassion and opening your heart to others. Of course you do your preliminaries first, which you'll have a great structure of preliminaries after this course is over. You'll have a nice fresh set of preliminaries, and you can refresh them all the time. And you'll have a bunch of tools to be able to do that. So you start with your preliminaries, and then it's always nice to do something to open your heart. So, you know, you do like Tonglen, you know, you're wanting to take away the suffering of another being, just to open your heart, to prepare yourself for wisdom to be able to come in, you know. And then you go to the analysis, and the way his book flows is the analysis that you do in every single meditation. You know, it's like you analyze the emptiness of the object out there, and then you turn your mind towards the emptiness of your own mind. And that's the way that Bok Jinpa 1 through 4 is. It teaches that. You know. So we'll go through all that. You know how to get by
Take a break.